Most people will work for 40 years. Not because they love working, not because they are building something meaningful, but because they are afraid. Afraid of missing a paycheck, afraid of one emergency, afraid of one mistake. And fear is expensive. Fear makes you accept low pay. Fear makes you tolerate disrespect. Fear makes you stay small. Everyone talks about making $1 million. Everyone flexes 6 figures, but almost nobody talks about the number that actually changes your life. $20,000. Not flashy, not impressive, not Instagram-worthy, but powerful. Because $20,000 is not about wealth, it is about power. Before you build your first real reserve, you are not free, you are rented. Your landlord owns your peace, your employer owns your time, your bills own your thoughts. You wake up and immediately think about money. You go to sleep calculating numbers. You say yes when you want to say no. That is not living, that is surviving. And survival mode rewires your brain. When you live paycheck to paycheck, your mind shrinks. You stop thinking about opportunity. You stop thinking about growth. You only think about damage control. How do I avoid disaster? How do I stretch this week? How do I survive until next month? You are intelligent, you are capable, but your mental bandwidth is hijacked. Now imagine this. You open your banking app, and instead of anxiety, you feel calm. Not rich, not luxurious, calm. That calm begins around 20,000. Because now, if your car breaks, you fix it. If your job becomes toxic, you leave it. If an opportunity appears, you can actually consider it. That is power, and power changes posture. When you negotiate salary without fear, your voice sounds different. When you push back on unreasonable demands, your body language changes. When you apply for better jobs, you do not beg, you evaluate. Most people never experience this shift because they never build the base. They upgrade lifestyle instead. New phone, new car, bigger rent, temporary dopamine, permanent pressure. Here's the brutal truth. A car payment feels like success, but it's financial gravity. $600 a month invested for 40 years becomes hundreds of thousands. $600 a month on a car becomes zero. Same money, different direction, and direction decides destiny. People think wealth is about high returns. It's not. It's about behavior repeated long enough. Saving your first $20,000 requires transformation. You cannot accidentally save that amount. You must track. You must sacrifice. You must delay pleasure. You must say no when it's uncomfortable. And every time you say no, you build discipline. Every time you invest instead of consume, you build identity. Identity is the real asset, because once you see yourself as an investor, as a builder, as someone who creates margin, you cannot go back to chaos comfortably. Now let's talk about acceleration. The first $20,000 feels slow, painfully slow, like pushing a heavy object uphill. You question if it's worth it. You compare yourself to others. You feel behind. But what you don't see is momentum forming. At $20,000 earning 8%, your money produces $1,600 per year. That's proof of concept, proof that money can work, proof that patience multiplies, proof that you are no longer alone in the process. Then something powerful happens. Your second $20,000 arrives faster because now you're not the only one working. Your capital works with you. By the time you reach $100,000, the math starts becoming exciting. By the time you reach $400,000, $20,000 can appear in months without extra labor. The same milestone that once took years now happens quietly. This is why the wealthy look calm. They are not smarter. They simply crossed the invisible threshold. But here's the mistake that destroys progress. People hit $20,000, feel powerful, then reward themselves by resetting to zero. Luxury vacation, brand new car, overpriced apartment, they trade leverage for lifestyle. And lifestyle inflation is silent. It doesn't feel dangerous. It feels deserved. But every upgrade increases pressure, and pressure kills freedom. Real wealth is not visible, it is silent. It is the ability to walk away, the ability to wait, the ability to choose. When you have margin, you stop obsessing over small purchases. $3 coffee stops mattering. What matters is where you live, what you drive, what you invest, what you earn. Big decisions move the needle. Micro savings alone do not create wealth. Strategic decisions do. And when you operate from strength, your decisions improve. You negotiate higher pay. You switch to better environments. You invest more confidently. You take calculated risks. Confidence compounds just like money. Now understand something deeper. $20,000 will not make you rich, but it will remove desperation. And desperation is the hidden tax most people pay their entire lives. Desperation makes you stay in toxic relationships. Desperation makes you fear quitting. Desperation makes you chase quick money. Remove desperation and clarity appears. Clarity creates strategy. Strategy creates growth. Growth creates options. Options are freedom. The world respects optionality. Employers respect it. Business partners respect it. Investments reward it. When you no longer need something, you are finally in position to choose it correctly. That's the paradox. The less desperate you are for money, the easier it becomes to multiply, because you stop chasing and start building. Most people spend their best decades consuming, impressing strangers, financing status. Then they wake up at 50 wondering where time went. Meanwhile, the quiet, disciplined person driving the older, reliable car, investing consistently, ignoring noise, builds invisible strength, and invisible strength becomes visible results later. The first 20,000 is not about the amount, it's about the transformation required to reach it. Once you prove to yourself that you can build that base, you realize something powerful. You are capable of far more. From there, 100,000 becomes realistic, 500,000 becomes logical, financial independence becomes mathematical, but none of it begins without the first threshold. Not 1,000,000, not 6 figures, 20,000. It's the line between reacting and designing, between fear and leverage, between surviving and building. Build that foundation, protect it, grow it. Because once gravity starts working in your favor, you will wonder why you ever doubted the climb. And that's when the real game begins.